You have highest IQ, highest EQ, most hustle, most courage. So the most damage, but the best ability to overcome that. So that's what entrepreneurs are. Then you get to the level of true visionary who lives in abundance, who looks at things as investments, not cost gets. You give to give, but only to the people who get it. So I will endlessly give to people who get it, regardless of whether I get anything back. The worst I'd ever felt was at the end of 2018, made more money in 1 year and never been more miserable. So I'm glad I went through that because I realized that more money did not equal more happiness.
I'm Coach Dez, mindset motivator and lifestyle entrepreneur. My mission is to help you crush your self-limiting beliefs and embrace being unapologetically you. The Born Unbreakable podcast brings you inspirational stories from all over the world that will empower you to unlock your unbreakable spirit. I'd love to partner with you on your next breakthrough. Go to bornunbreakable.com to schedule a free transformational call. Action begins today. Are you looking for a one-stop shop in Las Vegas where you can comfortably stay and host an event? Athena Estate is located in Southwest Las Vegas, just 10 minutes from the Strip, and offers everything you need. On over an acre of land, this indoor-outdoor venue is perfect for an intimate retreat, a small wedding, or a milestone birthday. We offer a variety of packages and services that will fit your needs and your budget. Book with us by December 26th and receive 20% off your stay or event. Visit staydorado.com, that's STAYDORADO.com to learn more. We look forward to customizing your next experience. Welcome to the Born Unbreakable podcast. I'm here with a special treat, my guest, Justin Breen. We both have our coffee mugs today. What are you drinking in your mug today, Justin?
You know what? No one's in like 20 years as a journalist and then like hundreds of interviews. No one has ever asked me that, with the exception of this interview. And then last week, someone asked me that. So now that's kind of weird that that's happened twice now in a couple of days. Yeah, so I didn't answer your question yet. So it's straight black coffee, but today, unlike any other day, I poured some protein drink into it to see if it would taste good, and it kind of does. So it's like chocolate protein drink with coffee in it. It's pretty good.
Hey, just try something different every time. When I used to work at the university I went to, I would pour black coffee and I would mix it with hot chocolate packet.
Yeah.
Kind of like a chocolate mocha thing. So yeah, I don't know. Tried some different stuff too. But I'm excited to have Justin here today. He's the author of one of the favorite words that I've been really attached to lately. And it's like the first word of his book. So that just an extra special. It's Epic Life: How to Build Collaborative Global Companies While Putting Your Loved Ones First. And there's something really special because you are a Wall Street Journal and USA Today bestselling author. And for those of you who don't know too much about the authoring world, that's an easy thing to do. So I'm just, getting more introduced to it. But if you learn about all the numbers that it takes to be able to accomplish that, it's quite a bit. So that says a lot about the support that Justin has in his universe. He's also the founder and CEO of the global PR firm BrEpic Communications and BrEpic Network. And he is actually talking to me today from where he resides in Chicago, which happens to be one of the places I love to go the most in the summertime, though, in the summertime. So welcome to the show, Justin.
Thank you. Yeah, this will be exciting. I was listening to, so like most of my days talking to world's top visionaries and then spending time with my family. That's pretty much my whole day. I was listening to your interview with Dennis Barry, that, you know, multiple drunk driving, drove into a house, stoned for 15 years. I'm like, oh, this guy's just a total entrepreneur. That's all. And then we first met. You'd interviewed Mike Malatesta. You know, his partner died in a fire. Mike had a massive exit with his company. He's had multiple exits. He became a great PR partner. I'm like, Mike's just an entrepreneur. So I'm like, just incredible damage, and then figure it out. You know, just figure it out. So you have a good name for your good name.
Yeah, it's actually quite fascinating, because I find that the stories that I gravitate to are those that have those arcs, you know, where there is something that you might call tragic or monumental, or just, you know, captures a really pivotal point in someone's life. And it's somewhat of a turning point or a wake-up call. And I think it does so much, you know, in their journey. But I'd love to know your story, Justin. Tell us about you.
Sure. Yeah. My brain, most of my days talking to like top ideators on the planet. So they're like idea, you know, shiny object. And then I am ultra focused, and my brain turns everything into patterns. I don't know why it does that, but it does. So that's just the background. Like basically every answer I will have will be some type of pattern. So most of my day is talking to top entrepreneurs on planet. So definitely not humans, not business owners, not consultants, just top entrepreneurs changing the world. And entrepreneurs like that, most damaged people, most damaged with best coping skills. So most damaged people, best coping skills. I have not met one of those entrepreneurs that has not overcome at least one of the following four things. Most are two or three, and then the really successful ones, they're usually threes and fours. So the four things are bankruptcy or potential bankruptcy, 2, depression, 3, highest level of anxiety that you can imagine, and 4, likely and or possible traumatic experiences as a child or young adult. So for humans, business owners, consultants, those are excuses. Entrepreneurs at the highest level figure it out. So they have highest IQ, highest EQ, most hustle, most courage. So the most damage, but the best ability to overcome that. So that's what entrepreneurs are. That's what separates entrepreneurs from everyone else. So I'm 3 of those 4. 3 of those 4. The only one, knock on wood, I haven't had to worry about is bankruptcy or potential bankruptcy. But started first company with zero business background in 2017 after job salary as a journalist was cut in half, couldn't find a job. Incorporated 6 days after turning 40 with zero business background. So I was working full time at half salary over 6 weeks, reached out to 5,000 people to find first 5 clients. So 1 out of 1,000 said yes, 999 no's for every yes. Got 5th client on June 1st, June 2nd resigned. And then at the time, he's since retired, but at the time, Robert Feeder was top media columnist in the Midwest. He did a story. I'd started my own firm. So that was just the start first company. That's, you know, most people can't do that, but that's entrepreneur life.
Wow. And I mean, 2017, it wasn't like that was long ago.
Entrepreneur life. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you know, PR, you're in the world of PR. You talk to visionaries, like you mentioned, and there's a pattern. Even there, you mentioned that you see patterns. How do you find the clients that you work with?
Oh yeah, I haven't done anything outbound in years. They're hard to find at first because people like me are usually aliens within their own family, community, and verticals. The only people that understand us are top entrepreneurs on planet. So most of conversations I had most of my life were talking to people who had no idea what I was talking about. So that can be a very lonely world, and then I just found that the only people who understood what I was talking about were top entrepreneurs on planet. So again, simplify into patterns. I just keep making bigger investments into smaller rooms, but the people in those rooms are making bigger impacts. That allows me to spend biggest investment, smallest room, which is my family, where I can make most impact. So I guess in human terms, what that means is first networking group I was in, it was like $250 a year, then it was $500 a year, then it was $1,000 a year, then it was $2,000, then there was a $5,000. At the $10,000 a year, some people started to understand what I was talking about. And then now two groups I'm in now are 25K a year each. I'd easily invest 50K a year each. Why? Because bigger investment, smaller room, bigger impact. Allows me to spend most time with my family, smallest room where I can make the most impact. So it's the same formula and pattern. And regardless of whether it was $250 a year or $25,000 or $50,000, it's never been a cost. It's always been an investment. I just found the only people that understood what I was talking about, and more importantly, the only place where I can actually learn anything is at the 25K a year group. So I just keep making bigger investments.
That's the way to do it. I like it. I like it. Now tell me about your book. What was the catalyst for that, for writing your book, and what is the goal that you have with bringing that to the world?
Well, there's two things from that. One, again, most of my days talking to top entrepreneurs on the planet. So I talk to 1 to 2 of those folks every single week, that have let entrepreneur life destroy their family life or prevented them from anything meaningful. So the book's about how to build collaborative global companies while putting your loved ones first. That's the message I believe and know people like me want. They just don't know how to do it because entrepreneurs are most damaged people with best coping skills. And many times, but not always, they use those coping skills to create massive company, massive wealth, massive number of cars, massive houses, and certainly not always, but many times at expense of anything meaningful. No family, multiple divorces, total disaster. So that's why I wrote it. And then reason 2 is if you're not a litmus test for people you serve, then you're a hypocrite. So purpose of my life is to be connecting superhero for every visionary who shares their stories with the world. So I am a visionary sharing my story with the world. So because that's the people I serve, I am one of those people.
That's amazing. Yeah. I mean, people need that example, right? I mean, I think that's, one of the biggest things that is why people look for community in the first place is
100%.
Because they want examples that can inspire them, that they can learn from, and that they can get motivated from. I want to ask you about networking and community because I do think that we're in an interesting time. I can't say we're past the pandemic. I mean, it still exists, but I do think we're in a world where whether you are spending more time virtually or you're embarking back on the in-person front, people see more than ever the value of community and networking. So can you talk about how has influenced you and what you do in the communities and networks that you're in?
Yeah, these are good questions. So of all the patterns that my brain has done, the number one by far is right mindset attracts right network, which creates right opportunities. So right mindset attracts right network, creates right opportunities. So I strongly feel you're either born to be top entrepreneur on planet or you're not. I think most people would choose this life, but those 4 things, those are excuses. An entrepreneur, figure it out. But if you are born like this, you can work on your mindset every day. And so we only partner with visionaries who live in abundance and who look at things as investments, not costs. So not business owners, not consultants, not humans, visionaries who live in abundance. So there's no scarcity. And there's no what do you cost or charge. If anyone asks me that, I will never talk to them again because they're living in transactional world, not transformational. So when you have visionary investment abundance mindset, it attracts visionaries who live in abundance and who look at things as investments, not costs, and it repels people that don't think like that. So there's nothing outbound. And what I see is a 4-step process when someone starts a business. So if this is helpful. This is what I see over and over and over again. So first there's get to get. So that's totally fine to start there. I reached out to 5,000 people to find first 5 clients, pure getting. A lot of folks stay there. I wouldn't recommend doing that, but a lot of folks actually do their whole lives. Then there's get to give. So you're giving a little, but you're mostly still trying to get. So think 2 intros to get 10. Definitely most of the world stays at that. Then you get to give to get. So you're giving 8 intros, but you're still trying to get 3 back. So you're giving, but you're still trying to get a little. Okay, 99.9% of the world stops at that. Then you get to the level of true visionary who lives in abundance, who looks at things as investments, not cost gets. You give to give, but only to the people who get it. So I will endlessly give to people who get it, regardless of whether I get anything back, because they live in abundance and look at things as investments, not costs, and they're visionaries. And then those people are constantly giving to me, regardless of whether they get anything back, because they get it. And so it just creates this endless abundance of network of the right types of visionaries, endless abundance. And there's only 2 10x things in my life, only 2, because I'm a simplifier into patterns and use a lot of logic and things. So a lot of folks, they care about revenue, employee count, office space. That stuff's fine. I just don't care about any of that stuff. The only 2 10x's I care about are experience in life with my family. If you have a good family life, you have a good life. I have never met one person, not one, that has had a good family life that has not had a good life. If you know someone, regardless of whether they're a visionary or not, who's had a good family life that has not had a good life, I'd like to meet that person. I don't think I will, but I would like to meet them. And then the second 10x is network on a global level. And when you increase your network 10x on a global level, it creates endless opportunities for your network and yourself. So what I found is that all this other stuff, this business owner stuff, it just takes care of itself.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I love that you talk about family, because in many stories, it's people are talking about the demise of the family at the cost.
Because they're the most damaged people with the best coping skills, and they torch their. I see the same thing over and over and over.
Absolutely. You know, there words like sacrifice and prioritization and, you know, needing to choose work or business, the daunting schedules of travel that keep people away from family. And then it, you know, leads to this spiral of all the things that you mentioned. It's divorce or just struggle. You know, and I think what you're talking about is another level of what I would agree with you. Most people want to get to. Who doesn't want to have?
Why would you not want that? It's illogical to not want. It doesn't make sense. So like, thank you for saying that. So like I was a journalist for 20 years, so you don't get into that for like, you don't get into that for business owner stuff. Most of them don't. So like, I'm very grateful that never took a business class or any of that in college or nothing. Didn't even know what this world was until started first company. And it was a great blank slate. So there was no damage. There was no damage from like learning. I didn't have to unlearn that much. I didn't have to unlearn it. And
that's a big.
You're surrounded by people winning the wrong game. I mean, that's literally what it is.
Mm-hmm. I do find that the unlearning part is a big aspect of so many journeys, because what you're taught in the societal norm is to do certain things that then you feel challenged by once those things settle in. You go to college, you take the business classes, like you said, you study things, and you're making sacrificial choices. You know, and then hopefully by the time you're 50 or something, then you're reconciling and feeling like you're on a path towards, you know, success in some way or balance.
50. Yeah, I'm 45. You're right. So like, and so when you talk to a 50-year-old, and I would say most of my days talking to folks that are much older than me. And so when you talk to 1 to 2 of them every single week that said, oh, don't do what I've done, or or they don't even have to say it. It's just obvious to not do that. And what my brain does, there's a 34 Clifton Gallup Strength Finders, GALLUP Strength Finders. It's an assessment. Most of the people I talk to, they're ideator futurists with a mix of activator, maximizer, achiever in the top 5. So they're off in idea world, but they'll do something about it in the present. And then I'm 32 out of 34 in ideation, almost dead last. So essentially, every great idea in my life comes from an ideator futurist. So what happens is maybe once a month, one of those folks will say something truly great. And then my top 3 strength finders are activate, maximize, achieve. So I'm like, oh, that's a great idea. I'll activate, maximize, achieve that into my life. More often than that, they'll say something like, oh, I'm on my 3rd marriage, or I don't see my children, or I never had children. And I'm like, well, that's a bad idea. I'm going to activate, maximize, achieve not doing that. So as simple as that sounds, that's literally how my brain and life works. I just talk to ideators, and every now and then they say something great, and then I'll do that. And then more often than that, they'll do something that I think is not great, and I won't do that.
Yeah. It's nice to be on the side where you don't have to make the mistakes to learn from them, that you can actually, you know what I mean? Do things in a way that you just get to stay in that abundance mindset. I too have a maximizer and achiever as 2 of my top strengths.
What are your top 5? What are your top 5?
I've taken it twice. When I first took it, individualization was one of them, but now all the 5 are more in what you would call the strategy realm. Yeah, I strategy. It's interesting because they were probably about 10 years apart when I took it, and I found that through my maturity, like 4 of the 5 are in the strategic future realm. Then before it was more execution and empathy driven, like empathy. You're high
in empathy. You're high in empathy.
Right.
So that's an interesting thing. So there's 34 of them. I am dead last in empathy, second to last in includer. However, again, a weakness becomes a strength because I've found collaborative ideators and then have found collaborative empathy in my life. So I like to know like what I'm last in, because I'm like, oh, okay, so my wife's a pediatrician. She's probably 1 or 2 in empathy. So she's like, oh, you have to say thank you to people. And, and I'm like, oh, thank you. Okay. Thanks for telling me that. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And then my partner for company, he's competition 1, maximizer 2, empathy 3. So I've just found collaborative empathy, and I'm very grateful for that. 'Cause like, I would have never understood any of that if people like you weren't like saying things like that. So but for top entrepreneurs on planet, I have endless empathy, endless. Because of those 4 things, and they won't make excuses.
Yeah, that's really true. It's so if there's anyone listening and you're like, what the heck are Justin and Dez talking about? we're talking about a book called Now Discover Your Strengths, and there's so much that's around this. And these 34 strengths that Justin describes have come from Gallup doing research on entrepreneurs all around the world. And so these are the ones that come up. And when you take the test, right? When you take the test,
they do humans too.
Yeah, right. Then you will get your top 5, and you'll get all the definitions of what those are. And there's a lot of tests, that are out there like this. I'm certified in conducting the results for what's called the Hogan assessment. So the Hogan is their test. It's one that people usually, it takes longer. It's about 45 minutes to take it because there's 3 dimensions to it, but usually it's an indicator of future performance. And so, organizations like people to take that because it helps them to understand what motivates them, how they get what they want, and then what could get in the way of that if their strengths manifest into something more challenging. So I think, though, a point to be made, for this topic of like personality tests or understanding the people around you, like Justin talked about his wife having empathy, and one of the partners he works with, maybe you have opposite kind of strengths, is to know the leverage that you have with the people that are around you, because there's sometimes chances that you have different things that you can leverage one another for, and the more you have awareness, the greater capacity you have to tap into other people's greatness, and
right.
Some where you're so mired in yourself that you forget this isn't a solo act. when you're a visionary, you don't do things in a vacuum. You do things to enable, empower, engage, and collaborate with other people. And I think that's exactly the kind of environment that you're talking about, Justin.
Yeah, that's my whole life. I mean, if I'm not in a room like that, whether it's virtual or in person, then I get bored. I mean, there's nothing I can do, because I can't help someone if it's a conversation that they don't understand. So what's the point? And of all these assessments, and I'm a high fact finder. Sounds like you are too. Number one by far is Kolbe, Kolbe. That's not your personality. I don't care what someone's personality is. I'll send you the link after this call. So it's how your brain takes action. I want to know if someone's actually going to do something. And the overwhelming majority of visionaries that I talk to, there are exceptions, but the overwhelming majority are at least an 8 quick start. 10 is the highest. So, and Mike Malatesta, he's an 8 quick start. I'm guessing Dennis Berry's at least an 8 quick start. He's probably a 9 or 10 based on how he talks and what he's been through. So most visionaries are very high quick start, boom, 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 and then little to no follow through. So that's ADHD, ADHD diagnosed or undiagnosed. It's not a disorder. It's a sign of genius mislabeled by humans. And then I am the very, 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 very rare visionary that has high quick start, boom, 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 and high follow through. So say it, do it, say it, do it, say it, do it. Just hit the gas, pump the brakes. So I can keep up with really high quick start visionaries and follow through for them. It's very, 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 very rare. So in almost 6 years as an entrepreneur, almost 6, my firms have partnered with one person that I know of, and most Kolbes I know at this point. Only one under a 7 quick start. Only one in 6 years. Wow. So I have found that's a sign of a visionary. And you're at least a 7. You're at least a 7. There's no, I mean, I can hear how you talk. Like you've, in a good way, you've slowed yourself down. I can really hear how you think before you say anything. But I bet 10 years ago, I bet you were going, you've somehow slowed down a little bit with maturity. That's what I hear.
Yeah. You're right. And there's this saying, and I'll never forget this visionary mention it. And it was, the future is in the follow-up. The future 100%. Is in the follow-up. So for you to say that, that's something you're good at is not true for every person, because you're absolutely right there. I think
most of the people I talk to, if they don't hire 20 people, nothing would ever, it would be a disaster.
No, because people are very excitable to want to do something and take action. But then when it comes to the follow-up and getting down to what actually needs to happen, not like maybe 50% of the time it actually does, but that's one of the
less
things.
Than that.
Yeah. And I, find myself, especially with the more interactions that I have, you could see that even faster, right? Like people who have that great follow-up, and it's definitely more rare. I'd love to know, Justin, what is your focus now? Like what's next for you when you think about 2023? Like what are you up to?
Okay, thank you for asking that. I am now following through and sending you the Colby link also to your LinkedIn, because and activate, maximize, achieve. If you talk to me, is meaningless without doing something. So here, I'm just letting you know this is me in real time. And if you're not a litmus test, okay, all right. So that's sent to you. So again, there's almost no shiny object for me. Most people I talk to, they're endless shiny objects. I am not like, there's only two shiny objects, only two, my family and my network. And again, purpose of my life is to be connecting superhero for every visionary, abundance, investment mindset. I spend my time with my family and then growing my network. One of the chapters in the Epic Life book is naming your years. That idea came from a great ideator, PR partner, Joe Martin. He names his years. So 2020 was global growth. Every day said global growth. 2021 was no limits. Every day said no limits. 2022 was epic life. Every day epic life. Book epic life. This year is networks. So 2 words, networks. So second company is BrEpic Network, LinkedIn without the BS, high price point, invite only connectivity platform. Just technology for what we're doing with PR for any type of intro. And so my partner, who's high in empathy, he's based in California. He's a 9 quick start, true visionary, really getting that company going and super excited about that. So networks, totally focused on family working.
That's so cool. I want you to talk about the BrEpic network. I know that was started.
Yep, that's the company. Yeah.
So that's really what you're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's, yeah, so it's you want to sell your company for 9 figures, get an intro for that. You want a Hollywood script producer, get an intro for that. My partner, most of his day is doing 8 and 9 figure deals. He's in the financial industry. He's a true financial genius. I am not, so collaborative for that. And then he's a true visionary, and as connected as I am, he's even more connected. So he and I have, his name is Mark Fujiwara. He and I have a book coming out. About how to build a family office, multifamily office. I have no idea how to do that. But the new book talks about BrEpic Network being the connectivity platform for people like that. So to have a family office, you have to have minimum 8 figures. And then the third co-author is Russ Allen Prince. So he's the editor of Private Wealth magazine. And Private Wealth has about 2,000 subscribers. Average revenue per subscriber is 8 figures. So it's, it's a small number, but the right number. And so Russ is going to be feeding all his people into the BrEpic network as well. So it's very exciting. And that's what happens when you have the right mindset. It attracts the right network, and they create the right opportunities for you.
That's amazing. That's awesome. I'm looking forward to that book coming out. When is that? Is that happening this year?
Yeah. In a couple months. Yeah.
Awesome. That's so cool. So I have to ask you, because you've mentioned it a couple times, and I'm just curious because it sounds like it was a big part of your life, being a journalist. How did you start that? And what did you learn from that experience of journalism?
Yeah, you're definitely strategic #1 in Strength Finders. At least you are now if you retook it a 3rd time. But so I was just born with a story. I mean, I've been a journalist since before I was born, so that might not make any sense, but it will after I say this. When I was born, my dad was 61, and my mom was 27. And my father was a World War II hero, shot down multiple times in combat, many times without a parachute, got back in the plane, no excuses. First chapter in the book is the cream rises to the top. So he would say, until he died when I was 13, every day he'd say the cream rises to the top. So we partner with the cream that rises to the top, or those who will get back into a plane without a parachute. That's my litmus test. But so after he died, I found a diary of his that he wrote from the Battle of the Hyrcan Forest, which was a battle towards the end of World War II, very deadly battle. And every day in that diary just gets worse and worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And so I write exactly like he does. Boom, 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 boom. Just inform and entertain, no fluff, no nonsense. So I found that after he died. And then my mom was 27 when I was born. In his late 50s, my dad was hit by a drunk driver. Drunk driver was killed instantly. My dad broke every bone in his body but survived. And then my mom was his nurse. So that's how they met. He thought he was dead. He opened his eyes and he thought my mom was an angel. And that's how they met. So, and most of my days talking to the world's top entrepreneurs. I have not met one person in my life with more hustle than my mom ever. She's the ultimate survive and thrive, the ultimate. And so I'm the product. I'm the product of that. And then as a journalist for 20 years, I was really an entrepreneur who happened to be a journalist. So never covered negative news, never understood if it bleeds, it leads, never understood political news. I don't understand any of that stuff. So it was just writing about and connecting cool people, changing the world. And now as a visionary with 2 companies of just writing about and connecting cool people, changing the world. I mean, there's been no difference in purpose at all. I mean, it's been the same thing. It's just in different avenues, different outlets.
Yeah. Yeah. You've lived your purpose day in and day out for decades now.
My whole life. Yeah. I mean, basically, there's two, again, with logic and simplification, and you're definitely a high fact finder strategist, which is, I appreciate that. There's 2 reasons I found. There are 2 reasons that most people are miserable. One, they never find out what they like to do and what they're good at. So they're doing something 8 to 10 hours every single day, possibly 7 days a week that they're not good at and don't like to do. That's a bad idea. Two, they actually find out what they like to do and what they're good at, and they don't do anything about it. And so I don't understand. I just don't understand that. So I just do what I like to do and what I'm good at and completely eliminate anything else from my life. So I'm good dad, pretty good husband, like to be with my wife and her sons that are 8 and 10. And then I'm good at connecting and sharing stories with the world. So I just stay in those zones all the time.
Yeah. And I understand that you have some dogs too, right?
2 dogs, married a stabilizing human pediatrician, thank God. And we have 2 stabilizing doodles. One is a Bernedoodle named Dr. Pepper, and the other one is a golden doodle named Toffee Kisses.
Yes.
So they're both stabilized.
That name, Toffee Kisses, that's so awesome. Your son.
Thank you.
And you mentioned being a dad, and what do you find they talk to you about what they want to do? So they obviously see dad, a visionary, mom, a pediatrician. What are the kinds of things they talk to you about doing in their life?
So the greatest gift by far of being an entrepreneur, by far, there's not even a close second, is that our sons who are 10 and 8, they're both 9 quick starts in Colby, by the way. 10 is the highest, so they're visionary maniacs. The greatest gift by far is that they get to see this world even exist, and then they can do whatever they want with that. Okay, so they have my wife's empathy, kindness. They have a lot of friends. They're both great at sports. They have, they're good in school, and then they have my full maniac. My advice for my children is silly, okay, stupid, not. Misdemeanor, okay, felony, not. So my wife has different types of parents. And then at parent-teacher conferences, she says 3 words to me: don't say anything. So I keep my mouth shut at parent-teacher conferences. So we talk about people's Colby scores, and I'm 2 of the top entrepreneur groups in the world. The kids will sit in on those meetings virtually with me. And we talk about the freedom and joy of being an entrepreneur and doing whatever we want. And then I definitely talk about finances in terms of how much income comes in each month. And then sometimes when income doesn't come, and I go, oh, sometimes that's just how this works. So it's a really it's just a great gift to have that much. Like before COVID, I saw my kids more than any dad I've ever met in my life, and now I just spend more time with them. So to have that type of opportunity, I don't take it for granted. I mean, my dad died when I was 13, so I know what it's like not to have a dad around. I will never, ever, ever be that. I'll never be someone that would let entrepreneur life destroy my family life. I would never do that.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate you saying that, and I could tell how much light they bring into your life just by you talking about them. You know, I lost my dad too when I was 9, so I know
when you were 9.
Yeah, when I was 9, so it was even before being a
entrepreneur life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I've been really fortunate to have like an amazing brother-in-law and uncles and people who have just, older cousins, people who have been great guidances. But there is something about a father that, brings so much into their kids' lives. Not just the stability, but also the...
Oh, I provide no stability. My wife is full stabilizing. No, I mean, the first thing I do every day, every single day, is a grateful journal to my wife. That's the first thing I do, because without her, I mean, so what happens is a lot of people ask me, they're like, well, what's the recipe for, collaborative global companies while putting your loved ones first? And I go, honestly, usually people like me marry a stabilizing human. Not always, but usually. So I'm like, I talk to a lot of people. I go, so is your spouse an engineer or a school teacher or a nurse or a pediatrician or a social worker or a lawyer? And they're like, how did you know that? I go, well, imagine marrying yourself. That wouldn't be so it does happen. And if someone like me marries someone like me, two things happen. One, greatest life ever, biggest adventure ever. More often than not, complete disaster, because there's no stability. There's no stability, none. So thank God for my wife. People meet my wife and they have no. She's really, she's really smart, super sweet, really pretty, and then it makes no sense. Makes absolutely no sense. But I'm not giving her back.
No, and you shouldn't. And you shouldn't.
No.
You just, everybody needs to find that right recipe. You certainly have found it.
That's the right recipe again, for me, 100%. But again, for most visionary maniacs, most of them in Colby world, logic, scientific world, the ones that have kind of figured it out, they're high quick start, lower follow through. Not more often than not, they will marry a low quick start, high follow through human. More often than not.
Yeah, you find that right partner, that right balance, and that hopefully that gets you to the place that you that where you have the fun, but you have the groundedness, and you've got the good gamut of things, and then your sons have the best of both of those worlds.
That's something, I'll tell you. Well, and so my wife has given me a life in every way imaginable. Like, I'm forever grateful for, endlessly grateful for it. And then she takes more chances now than she ever would. She never would have done some of the things that she does now had she not married someone like me. She just wouldn't have. She came from a very sheltered family. That's totally fine. But she takes chances now so she's enjoyed her life more because of that. And then, without her, there's, it's just a terrible situation. I'd probably be one of those people that I'm talking to all the time. No, I would. And I'm glad I'm not, because it's just a blessing every day to see my children and see my wife. It's just and then the dogs. I named the dogs, and then I don't really do anything else with them. I'll let them out sometimes, but I did name them, and I named the children. And then my wife does 99% of the parenting, and then I drive them around and play games, and we beat each other up all day. But so it's a good mix.
Yeah, that sounds like a nice mix. I like it.
Right.
Justin, I'd love to get your take on a couple things. Because most of the time, as you've probably figured out, people that tune into Born Unbreakable come here because they are looking for some inspiration. They are looking for some level of betterment in their life. You don't choose a self-development podcast to like come and, want to get a more shitty life or something. So I do want to ask you about a success principle. Like you've had this career where you teach people about having an epic life. You've done everything from journalism to talking to visionaries every week. What's a success principle that you live by?
I love it. So I only ask myself 2 questions that matter every single day. Only 2. 1, did I have a good experience that day with my family? 2, did network grow on a global level? Every day I found the answer to the first question is yes. And I would say overwhelming majority of days, the answer to the second question is yes. And have found that all this other stuff kind of takes care of itself when those 2 are answered yes. And again, right mindset attracts right network, creates right opportunities. First thing I do every day is a grateful journal to my wife. We could talk hours about my wife. I'm happy to do that. And then 6 days a week, no matter the weather. Again, we live in Chicago, so I run outside 6 days a week between 3 and 5 miles. I've done that probably about 20 years now. And then listen to shows like these during those runs. So you're fueling your brain, lungs, heart, muscles all at the same time with good content and good air. So that's 6 days a week. So it doesn't matter if it's cold, rainy, warm, whatever. And then 5 days a week, I'll include this in that. 5 days a week, we'll do a grateful journal on LinkedIn. It's a commercial for other people, things that I'm grateful for that day, Monday through Friday. So to simplify all those patterns, when you're constantly grateful, it's hard to be ungrateful. It does happen, but it's hard. And then gratitude attracts gratitude and repels arrogance. It repels arrogance.
Yeah, that's so good. I have a newfound level of respect for you that you run 6 days a week, knowing where you live. I really do.
Right. It's entrepreneurial. You either do it or you can't. I mean, that's what it is. So, and what I found is I actually prefer negative. Today, it was 12 degrees Fahrenheit. I actually like running in colder weather than that. I used to do it in shorts. I don't do it anymore because silly, okay, stupid, not. That's my baseline. And don't really like running in heat, but that's like being a true entrepreneur. You know who's really out there doing it as opposed to the people who are afraid to do it. So
yeah, no, I love that. I talk a lot about self-limiting beliefs and what people have overcome. What's a self-limiting belief that you've had to overcome, Justin?
Yeah, that's a great question. So in Strength Finders, many of the people I talk to are very low in self-assurance. I'm actually very high, 6th. So top 5 are activator, maximizer, achiever, competition, responsibility. And then 6th is self-assurance and 7th is significance. So there's very little imposter syndrome. Very little imposter syndrome, which is rare. So just as that background, what I have learned is at the end of 2018, not 2 years into entrepreneur life yet, I'd made more money in 1 year than I'd ever thought possible, and I'd never been more miserable in my life. Never. The worst day of my journalism career, worst day was also the best day when job salary was cut in half. So that was February 10th, 2017. So almost the 6-year anniversary, almost 6 years. So that was the best day and the worst day in a 5-minute meeting. That's not even the top probably 100 days now of being an entrepreneur. So the worst I'd ever felt was at the end of 2018, made more money in 1 year and never been more miserable. So I'm glad I went through that, because I realized that more money did not equal more happiness. That was a very good learning experience. Very difficult to go through that. Very difficult, but learned a lot, and I'm glad now, certainly, that I went through it. So I don't know if that's a self-limiting belief. It was more of an understanding of what entrepreneur life actually is, and then what it actually means to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I think it's important for everyone to hear that. Most people are thinking that when you acquire more money, things get better, and happiness is attached to that.
1 plus 1 does not equal 2 in that case.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that.
Thank you.
If there is someone that you could meet, I'm going to say alive, somebody who's alive today, if you could meet, who would you want that to be, to have a conversation with?
I want to know the answer for you on that as well. There's two. One, I want this to be taken the right way, but Howard Stern, because I do think he's the best interviewer, maybe of all time. I don't necessarily like the content all the time, but I do think he's the best at interviewing. I would have said Larry King, but he just died in the last couple of years. So Howard Stern's one, because he's an incredible interviewer. Two, Matt Bellamy, the singer from Muse. He's also an entrepreneur. He's a full genius. I mean, I think he's the top musician currently living, just in terms of piano, guitar, singing. The guy's just, and he's an entrepreneur, investor in healthcare startups. So to have a conversation with him would be very interesting.
Yeah. My partner, Aaron, his favorite person to listen to, I think he's listened to him forever, is Howard Stern. I mean, gosh, he's been doing that, and in radio, forever.
Howard understands his purpose. He understands his audience, and I can understand that at a very high level. I understand my purpose, and I understand my audience, and he's a litmus test for the people that he serves. So I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah, I love it.
What's your answer? What's your answer to that?
I'm gonna wonder if you would have guessed that this was one of my answers, because you're pretty good at reading people. Oprah is one of the people. Okay. I think she has a high degree of a sense of understanding of the world, and a way to connect with people. In her journey of, interestingly, in the journalism or the broadcasting, she was in the broadcasting space when she first started out, and then moved into more of the hosting, the interviewing, the connecting, and then starting the O Network and turning it into more of a network and a magazine, and this whole this platform, and then putting on events where thousands of people would come together and do talk about everything from relationships to wealth. And I had a chance to see her, not talk to her in the way that we're talking about, if I had a chance to actually talk to her, but I got a chance to see her when she did an event right before the pandemic happened in 2020. And there's a lot to her magic. So I think that's really interesting. I actually say this next person because I'm just fascinated by, and it might be somewhat controversial, because I think people feel a lot of different ways toward this individual, whether it's good or bad, but I just would like to talk to him to understand his brain and how he thinks. But Elon Musk.
Mm-hmm.
Elon Musk.
Yeah, he's a 10 quick start, and I can say he's one of the few people that I can think of that has a million times less empathy than I do. A million.
Yeah. Yeah. So
no empathy or understanding. None.
Yeah. And so that's actually why, when you see someone who does things and accomplishes things that, I don't personally relate to him in a lot of ways, but I do think there's a lot of things he's done that's pretty fascinating. And I'd love to just be able to talk about that, with him. Because
if there's a here, for the newest book, Peter Diamandis wrote the foreword. So Peter's one of Elon's best friends. Peter's one of the top futurists on the planet. So to have him write the foreword for Epic Life, I'm very grateful. And Peter interviews Elon all the time. That might be a good search for you, just to look up Peter Diamandis interviewing Elon. And then Elon will pop in. One of the entrepreneur groups I'm in is Abundance 360. Peter runs that. So every now and then Elon will pop into that. So like if I'm not in a room with people that think like that, I get bored because they have to be changing the world. And here's the other thing that's interesting. You're an exception. My partner's an exception. Most visionaries, and again, all I do is talk to visionaries. Most visionaries are actually quite low in empathy. They're quite low in includer. They're low in positivity and harmony because that's why you're running. Right. That's why you're running a company up here. And that's fine, by the way. So like, I don't talk to employees. I don't talk to I just talk to true visionaries. All my teams are just visionaries connecting each other to visionaries because they're the ones that change the world. And those people help everyone else. That's how I help everyone else, by just helping the visionaries. But I do always laugh because there are exceptions, but I always laugh when someone's like, lead with empathy. I'm like, probably you're actually quite low in empathy.
What you say might not be entirely aligned. Yeah.
What I'm saying is most of the time when someone says they're leading with empathy, that it's bullshit. That's what I'm saying. You're an exception. My partner's an exception. And sympathy is different than empathy. Sympathy, I sympathize and not understand someone making an excuse. It makes no sense to be in any capacity.
Yeah. Justin, you are so fascinating. I could talk to you for hours, but I do want to ask you, if you had to give one last piece of advice to anyone listening to our conversation today, what would it be?
Okay. Thank you for asking that. I greatly appreciate that. So I'll answer like this and then explain. So if you're a dad, be a dad. Okay. So if you're a parent, be a parent. Like all this other stuff, to me, it's meaningless if you can't put your family. It's meaningless if you can't put your family first. So if you're a dad, be a dad. I mean, it's very simple. Like there's nothing else to me that matters if that stuff isn't taken care of.
Nothing. That I think people really needed to hear that. I love it. Justin, where can people find you? Where do people look at what you're up to, what you're doing, and so they know when that next book comes out, all that good stuff?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, this was a great interview. I'd like to know, what are you last in on your strength finders? Did you do all 34?
Yeah, I don't. It's been a while. I'd have to look. I don't know.
It'd be funny to see what you're last in.
Yeah,
it's probably something.
If now I want to go. I gotta go dig it.
If I did it, put it in the show notes. What you're last in, it'd be funny. And then people can go to the website. It's BrEpicLLC.com, BrEpic LLC.com. There's a mindset scorecard that takes 5 minutes. People like taking it, and people qualify or disqualify themselves with their own mindset. It's very interesting to see that.
Yeah. You got to understand who you are if you want to become who you want to be, right? So don't
100%.
Don't run away from that. Lean into it. It's like when you know who you are, then the more you can be authentic and be that, and know who to keep around you to balance it out.
100%.
That's why Justin's found the wife that he found.
It's a miracle. It's a miracle. Our first date was the day before she started medical school. And then somehow she and I became international dating experts. That's pretty hilarious, that story. But I have found knowing who you are not leads to knowing who you are. So I am not a BS glad handing PR firm owner. I'm very direct, full black and white, 100% black and white thinking, true visionary. So, because I know I'm not any of those other things.
Absolutely. Well, this has been remarkable spending this hour with you. You are the epitome of visionary. I love what you do. I love who you talk to make yourself better and make the world around you better. And most of all, I love the message that you've put out about putting family first. I think most people want to do that. I think the majority are figuring out how to do that. And I think if they tap into the resources that you've shared, and certainly your book, maybe they can be even more successful at it. So
thank you. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
I appreciate your time today. It's been awesome. What an insightful interview. Wow. Justin is undoubtedly a visionary. I can tell how quickly he thinks. He is a straight shooter, no bullshit, straight to the point. And I think having somebody like him in your circle makes a big difference in terms of how you get things done and think towards the future. If you think about people like Elon Musk, like a Mark Zuckerberg, any CEO of multi-billion dollar companies, these are the kinds of minds that they have. Willing to take risks, I love how he talked so much about things as investments and not costs, and abundance and not scarcity. That is a mindset that you have to adopt and really live by. It's not just a sometimes thing, it's an always thing. And it takes patterns and behaviors like what he talked about to really strive and achieve that. So I really do hope you got something out of today's interview. There were so many great moments that Justin talked about, and it really did make me feel encouraged to be bold and to be brave and to not be afraid of all those scary things that can happen in life. When he talked about him having 3 of the 4 things, when you think about financial, struggle, anxiety, depression, trauma, these are things that a lot of times you want to avoid or not experience, but you find that if you do, and those that have, are living in a way that is admirable. Because when you know what it's like to feel that you're at the bottom, the level of perseverance, tenacity, grit that you have to move beyond your circumstance and really live life to its fullest is so present. So what a fun interview. That was really cool. I enjoyed that a lot. Definitely got me going this morning. I just appreciate you for being here. Remember that you are your only limit, so take action today. And also think about your follow through. Think about your follow up. That was something that Justin pointed out that people are not always great at. I'd say that I'm probably right there in the middle. Not horrible, but not probably as good as Justin is. So it's something that I can continue to work on. But think about that. Are there things that you need to be following through on? Wow. Super great. Super awesome. We're entering now February, new month, new goals. new things to crush and conquer and be inspired by. So thanks for tuning in, and I will see you next time on another inspiring, sensational, motivating episode of the Born Unbreakable podcast.